Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I have gotten a very late start today, and it's because I had to take my son to work out, and then I took both my sons to a baseball lesson this morning before I could do anything. Then I got back. My son wants me to take him somewhere he can go swimming. Then I had to take my other son to get a Happy Meal at McDonald's, and one thing led to another. Now it's 1:09, and I'm recording this video. But I do have some good, I've been listening to a lot of video this morning, and I've got some good clips that I'm going to present to you in this. Let's start here, though. Brandon at Stu7 Pedasso sent me this from Jim Rickards, and he's weighing in on this Bank of International Settlements tweet about how they're pleased to announce a strategic partnership with the Federal Reserve, New York Fed to further the development of fintech initiatives for global financial system. He says, my take on this is the world's most powerful central bank, the Fed, joins with the central bank of central banks, BIS, to dominate cryptocurrency and run other cryptos into a ditch. Crypto groupies may laugh now. Just give these two a little time. They'll get there. Well, which ones of these central banks have used, which digital asset whose major proponent is Ripple, which company involved with a digital asset has been talking to the people like at the Federal Reserve and talking to all these central banks around the world for the last few years? There's only one, folks, maybe two, XRP, XLM, those two. They're it, folks. I'll add one. I'll add one more that I know of, and that is the one by Circle. What is it? Their stable coin called the USDC or USD, whatever. They have met with central banks as well. Okay, but what Jim Rickards is saying is probably very true. Now, XRP, the Standard Productions, tweeted this, and I thought it was funny. Second greatest day of my life, David Schwartz, troll extraordinaire. For those of you that don't know, David Schwartz is on Quora all the time answering questions. I think it's the way he keeps his mind busy. But David Schwartz answered this question, and this question was inspired by XRP, the Standard Productions. He had done a parody Coil article or Coil blog post where he said that they were pulling down Brad Garlinghouse statues against the backdrop of all the stuff that's been going on. And then somebody posted this question on Quora, and David Schwartz answered it. Why are XRP holders so furious lately at Brad Garlinghouse that they toppled his statue? And then David Schwartz answers, I think it's just the number of Brad Garlinghouse statues that has caused their anger. These things have been popping up in every city in the nation these days, and I think people are just sick of them. David Schwartz has a great sense of humor, and so does XRP, the Standard Productions. I thought this was great. Okay, I'm not going to go through all this, but this is a good thread I wanted to make you aware of from Caitlin Long. How to understand what's going on in the financial markets. Western world built up a debt bubble of stunning proportions over the past 50 years. It's deflating now, just as it tried to do in 2008, 2001, 97, 94, 87, 81, 74. Each time, though, there is enough balance sheet capacity to reinflate the system by pumping more debt into it. I want you to go and read this entire thread. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but it'll really give you a good snapshot of where we are and how ridiculous it all is. Okay. And then Cryptopolis tweeted this out, I believe, yesterday, and I thought this was great. He says, PSA, the altcoin crypto bull market is ready for takeoff as of 6/29/20. The Fed is buying bank stocks after easing of the Volcker rule. Stocks, commodities, crypto, every asset class will go up. They know stocks can't go up without the financials. This will be inflationary for every asset. In addition, I bought XRP at 0.1715 Saturday, and he is a happy man for that. I bought myself some XRP yesterday. It was at 0.176 though, I think, somewhere in that range. Okay, This is from Michael at VAL5 Links. Christopher Giancarlo, Paxos co-founder and CEO, Charles Cascarilla, and Duke University visiting professor of law Nikita Cotino suggest the focus may center on in part around central bank digital currencies and stablecoin. They were doing this. This was the digitization of money and payments. This was this morning at 10 o'clock. I have not reviewed this yet, but I wanted to make you aware of it so you can go watch it if you want to. I will probably review this and do it in my next video. United States Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. Okay, now I'm going to get you to I've got two great videos with some sound clips that I wanted to go over for you. The first one is going to be Mike Novogratz. Mike Novogratz in this clip, in my opinion, is telling you the reason. Now remember, he's a Ripple investor. In this clip, this explains to you really why they're touting Bitcoin when they know that it's nothing more than a store of value, and they know that it technologically is a dinosaur already. And he knows that XRP is what it is. He knows that it's the greatest digital asset ever created. But this is all about what they can sell first, in my opinion. That's what the reason that these guys like him have been focused on Bitcoin right now. And he comes out and says it, in my opinion, right here.
The amount of phone calls that we're getting has changed. The overall excitement in the space has changed, mostly because we now have a perfect macro backdrop to sell people on the scarcity story, on the hard asset story,
That's
on
it.
Bitcoin as digital gold. And we're seeing new buyers and not just new buyers, but new buyers and new asset in investor classes. So Paul Tudor Jones buying it, really the first major hedge fund that's bought it in his fund. I got a call last night from one of the biggest hedge funds in the world looking to hire a crypto trader. I told him I wasn't for sale. But so you're seeing this shift of new participants, and the macro story is so powerful. I think it's a very different story.
And Raul, what about you?
I mean, I totally agree. I think it is the gift of the macro story that Bitcoin has always been after. But not only that, I mean, I totally agree with what Mike's saying, but on top of that, I think the whole space, and Mike operates in a much larger space with Galaxy, is that whole disruption of a financial system is becoming much more obvious to people now because you're seeing the fragilities of what exists. So I think, it's a perfect time and a place. It's interesting to me it's not broken out yet, but, if anything, it teaches you patience within the Bitcoin world. And, like Mike, I didn't really understand why it was up beforehand. I was not really heavily involved, but now it's got, a lot of focus for me. And same thing, I'm getting emails, phone calls every day from hedge funds saying, okay, how do I buy it for my PA? How do I get it into my fund? What do I need to do? How do I get involved? So, yeah, it's definitely growing in importance across the spectrum.
Now, there's a very interesting thing going on that I've been talking about here. This guy right here, his name, I think, is Raul Paul. I think that's how you say it. He's with Real Vision Finance, and they've been doing an online virtual conference, and it is literally packed with Bitcoin maximalists. I mean, from Mike Novogratz to Anthony Pompliano. I am telling you in my soul, and then this woman is also a major Bitcoin maximalist, and she's very anti-XRP. She comes out against Ripple and XRP all the time. But you can see it's almost like they've created this intentional juggernaut to pitch this Bitcoin, to sell it. The way Mike Novogratz just said, he just admitted to it. But it's because they know, these guys know what XRP is standing beside Bitcoin. They know there's no contest. It's the obvious elephant in the room. But this is how they think they can sell it at first. That's what it's all about. Now, there's another clip in here I wanted to let you hear. I didn't even go all the way through this. But in this clip, it's important that you all understand, because I've talked about this a lot over the last 2 years. The financial advisors are coming. I said it 2 years ago because I was a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. And that's one of the first things I recognized in this, quote, new asset class. When the financial advisors finally realize how they're going to get paid, and they've got the go-ahead from all these traditional firms, get ready. Strap in is not just going to be Bitcoin. They're going to come in and they're going to be allocating portfolios anywhere from 1 to 5% of their portfolios into these digital assets. So it's important that you hear this part. Listen to this.
You gotta usually talk to their board. Hey, we're going to buy crypto for the first time. The other, I think, new group of buyers that are coming, they're not here yet. The financial advisor community is giant, right? If you think the bulk of the wealth in America and in Europe is not owned by Gen Z or millennials, though they'd like it. It's owned by, Gen X and baby boomers and older, and, the 50 to 80-year-olds. They don't have Bread wallets or Coinbase wallets or Venmo apps, and so getting the financial advisors to feel comfortable to then sell it to them is a process at Galaxy that we're really working hard on. That's being amped up in a big way, not just with us, with others as well. And so I think in the next few months, you're going to see a lot of FAs putting their clients into this.
And also, Mike, as you know, is the structure of this is everyone's got their eye on it. And if the price moves up, everyone gets FOMO and has to get involved. And that's at institutional level now.
Yes.
So if it goes up further, the more it goes up, the more the market cap goes up, the more they can justify it to their trustees, and the more people get involved. So I think we're at that tipping point of a virtuous cycle that can continue for a while, but we just need to get through these levels first. But I think essentially every institution, every RAA is almost kind of short the upside calls. Not really. I mean, obviously there's a bunch of people who are, but really what it's all about is people don't have it and they need to get it, but they wait for the price for confirmation.
So it's sort of.
Okay, so you can kind of see what's going on. Now, let's leave these 3 Bitcoin maximalists and let's go to another one. Today, Anthony Pompliano released the interview. I went through the whole thing with Michael Arrington. Now, remember, Michael Arrington, I met him at Swell in Singapore at the Ripple conference, and he was actually hanging out with Brad Garlinghouse when I met him. He's a very outspoken guy. He's not afraid to tell you. He's not afraid to cut your legs out from under you and tell you what he thinks, which is great as long as you're not on the wrong end of it, I guess. But anyway, he challenged Pompliano more than once in this interview, and there's some great clips here. And I'm going to show them to you now. Watch this. There's some really good clips in here.
And I said, "Ooh, I think I want to do this more full time." So I had a discussion with my partner at the venture fund, and he was less interested in crypto. So I decided at that point to break away from the venture fund, let him continue to run that, and I would focus entirely on crypto. And then, I knew the person I knew in crypto who had, the most interesting things going on was Brad Garlinghouse at Ripple. And so we had discussions about how I could create a fund, a hedge fund. And he basically made it happen. Ripple didn't invest; they couldn't for tax reasons mostly. But he helped make it happen, and I'll be eternally grateful to him for that. So it's really because of a girl, I guess, is when I got really into crypto. So
I love it. And so when you go and talk to Brad, he's the CEO of Ripple at the time.
Yeah, one of your guests. You strategically put a box of toilet paper behind his head when you had him on your podcast. Are you going to Photoshop something in?
We talked about this already. God damn it, Mike.
Off air. I just wanted to make sure on air I pointed that. Because if you're a real fan, if you're a super fan of Pomp, that was one of the really cool moments was when you strategically, purposely placed toilet paper behind the CEO of Ripple's head on your podcast. It was brilliant marketing. It was absolutely spectacular.
All I will say is that is not true. We'll leave it at that. But you got it on air. Good job. No, so when you go talk to him, and you specifically said hedge fund, but you guys do trading and you also do venture-like investments, or is it all more liquid trading?
So we're a hedge fund, and that's a structure.
Okay, I'm not going to go into that part. Let's go to 2930. Some good clips in this interview. Let's go to here. We'll listen to this one.
Coming out of your ears as you sent it. And now we're seeing conversations about Jay Clayton potentially not being SEC commissioner for longer. He's going to get a kind of promotion to go be the U.S. District Attorney for the Southern District of New York, potentially.
Is that a promotion? Is it a promotion? I don't know.
The articles I read positioned it as a promotion, but that's a good point. Maybe that's just corporate, bullshit.
I don't know.
Yeah. But kind of how do you look at the regulatory front today where ICOs seem to kind of have dissipated in the U.S.? Maybe we're seeing it more internationally, but just how do you look at the regulatory front?
Well, I think the U.S. Look, I'm older, right? I remember the internet, and the internet was invented by America and spread first in America, and nobody messed around with it legally, and it grew like crazy, and now it drives the whole economy. These companies that were created in the 90s, right? Google, Amazon, etc. Crypto's different. Like crypto, I'm not exactly sure where crypto was invented. It doesn't matter. Like nobody knows. But wherever that was, it was invented on the internet. And the U.S. has done like, sometimes it ignores it and sometimes it throws up roadblocks. But what it really needs to do is just get out of the way. And like it did with the internet. And it absolutely hasn't. And so, you know, there's so much innovation that wants to come in crypto in the U.S. And so many of these entrepreneurs leave the U.S. or don't move here from wherever they live. And it's just, I feel bad for the U.S., right? I feel bad because I'm an American. I want our country to succeed. And I believe crypto is the future. I believe Bitcoin is money and money is Bitcoin, period. And why would we not want to, you know, I know why we don't want to like be in the forefront of this. It threatens the dollar. It's confusing. And the SEC, you know, is always trying to protect people from, you know, schemes. But we need to let innovation blossom, and we don't want that just to happen in China and Singapore and et cetera, because ultimately it's bad for the U.S. So yeah, I was mad. I'm still mad. And I think that we need to get somebody in there that at the very least provides regulations that are understandable so we can work through them, as opposed to this great fucking unknown, which means nobody does anything in crypto in the U.S. anymore. And, you know, that worries me. So,
Yeah.
So he did not like that SEC. He does not like Jay Clayton at all, is what I get out of that. Okay, now let's go to 55:30. There's a couple of really interesting clips as we get further in here. Watch this.
Vinny's working on some stuff that I think fixes a lot of the problems in DeFi, but I'll leave it at that in case I don't know what's been announced. And we're not investors in that. He's just a friend. I have no financial interest in what he's doing. I wish I did. But I think that decentralization has many, many problems. And I talk about our first closing of our fund our very first closing was $50 million in XRP. And it was like literally 2 seconds to confirm the transaction. And we paid tens of cents. I think it was 40 cents for the transaction. It blows Bitcoin out of the water, right? It blows anything in the world out of the water, other than maybe handing a bag of money to somebody. And you can't beat that with Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is decentralized, and there's reasons why all of the problems with Bitcoin are acceptable. And if, you know.
So, and that was one of the interesting things to get out of this. He knows XRP is the best. He's also kind of a Bitcoin maxi guy at the same time, Arrington is. Okay, there's two other that are really good clips. Let's go to the 101 mark right here.
Do you secretly love XRP? Because again, in our private conversations, you talk about it very bullishly.
I bet he does.
You really have put most of your assets or intend to in it. And I'm just wondering, you know, what your real view on XRP is. So.
Should have never asked you this question. Let you ask me this.
Well, look, you asked yesterday, like what you asked your audience on Twitter, like what we're going to talk about. And a lot of the XRP guys came out and they said they really want to talk about it. And they know my opinion on it. I'm in love with XRP. And I think it serves a very useful and important purpose. I just want you on the record saying what you think about XRP.
So, I mean, Brad and I basically talked about it, but if you separate XRP and Ripple, Ripple as a software company that wants to build better software for banks, no brainer, makes sense. Like, venture capital bet. I'm jealous I didn't invest in Ripple in the seed round and make a bunch of money with all the venture capitalists, right? So like that makes a ton of sense. The Ripple XRP relationship, very weird to me. I've been on record a million times in saying like, I don't know what that relationship is or was or whatever. That's not my job. Like it is what it is. And we are here today. I think that XRP in
oh my God, there's a lot of hedging and hemming and hawing.
No.
Yes, there is.
XRP,
good point.
You know that, look, the XRP Army, I nod my respect to them. They don't fuck around. So I'm not going to mince words. But no, I think that XRP as a part of the Ripple product, meaning like they use it inside the product, I understand why they do that, and I see the advantages inside the Ripple ecosystem. What I don't understand, and I think where I choose to not engage on the XRP side, is I don't understand why people are buying it, speculating on future price movements. Right? Like, to me, if Ripple is successful, that doesn't mean that XRP has to be successful. And I think
you're talking about Bitcoin now. You're talking about Bitcoin now when you said speculate.
No, of course. Listen,
I mean,
by the way,
listen to what's coming
none
up.
Of us know
Absolutely. Listen, by the way, Bitcoin for sure, like I've said a million times, it is the most binary thing you could find. It is either going to be worth, millions of dollars a coin, or it's going to be worth basically nothing.
What do you think could crush? What do you think could hurt
Listen
Bitcoin
up.
the most? What could make it worth nothing?
Self-inflicted wound. Like, there's some code that's pushed that somehow does something detrimental in a material way. I think that's like the most likely thing.
So I
that
disagree.
actually takes
I
down
disagree
Bitcoin.
with that.
Why?
What if the U.S. government seriously declared it a national security threat and did everything they could to shut it down? They could clearly kill the fiat on ramps and off ramps, right?
I think China,
that's the biggest danger.
I think that.
What if they declared it a national security threat? All right, now I'm going to take you to the last clip. I'm telling you what, this Arrington, remember, Arrington hangs out with Brad Garlinghouse all the time. Best friends. So when I hear him say things, it makes me wonder. All right, listen to this last clip.
Crazy stuff, and I do too. But I will tell you this. I think that there are 3 interesting coin models out there. I think there's lots more, like the Terra one I talked about. But you've got Bitcoin, which is money. I think you and I agree on that, and a large part of your audience agrees on that. Ethereum is the worldwide computer, and it's definitely interesting. Now, Ether may or may not end up being that, or somebody else may be that, but I think that's an interesting model as well. The third one is, I don't want to call it a banker coin because the XRP army doesn't like that, but like what Ripple is doing can disrupt the banking system in a positive way and can help them eventually move to a Bitcoin world, I think, in a way that's like very important. And Bitcoin, in the Bitcoin scanner, you talk a lot about how you get around the issues of the how slow and expensive the Bitcoin network is. You do it through banks, like he envisions banks. Well, you're going to need, I mean, yes, you can have banks, but if they're issuing artificial like fiat, basically, like, fractional reserve type banking, you're kind of back in the old world. And so I really think XRP has a chance to become like that coin that people use to actually move the money around when they need to do stuff fast. You need it to be somewhat centralized. And the downside of that centralization, I think, is less than ultimately having very, very powerful banks control everything that there is to know about, to control about Bitcoin in the end.
Do those two things get mashed together in the sense of, let's say the US issues a digital dollar, or like JPM coin comes out or whatever. Do you think that eats into the potential that XRP can have?
It definitely could. I mean, there's an argument that XRP competes with Tether more than Bitcoin, right? And so if you look at how it's being used now, it's these cross-border payments where there's a lot of pain involved, and it's really helped MoneyGram, with making these cross-border payments faster and cheaper. So I think there's a long-term play for XRP. We love it, especially at these prices. We look at the price of most coins and Bitcoin and sats, right? We don't look at ETH as $230 or whatever it is right now. We look at how many sats it is. And we do that the same with XRP. And XRP is, I haven't looked in the last couple hours, but it's hovering around 2,000 sats. That's very, very cheap for XRP. And so we are more bullish on XRP than we otherwise would be. And we think over the long run, it's part of the ecosystem. Just believe that. But you're in good sport about this, because most Bitcoin maximalists cannot stomach and even having a conversation beyond how great Bitcoin is,
because
and I think that you are somebody that's helping bring this community together instead of helping rip it apart. And I think that you're an important asset because of that. So I'm glad you do what you do.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate it. I also appreciate you taking the.
Okay, I thought those were some great clips. All right, now I wanted to bring to your attention something awesome. This is Uphold. Now, we talked about this the other day, and they're tweeting this out. Anything to anything means you can buy U.S. equities with your credit card, trade directly with crypto, or email to a friend. Access investments from both new and old money systems available in select regions outside the U.S. These are some of the stocks. Now, this is the page I showed you the other day. You're now able to, what's cool about this is they've got trading pairs now. So like, the way I understand it, you could hold Amazon, like fractional shares of Amazon stock. Then you could turn around and buy Facebook stock with the Amazon shares. That's the liquid world that we're going into. These guys are on the front, and they've got ETFs. They're on the front end of changing the world. So imagine you can now go onto this Uphold platform, buy XRP. You could sell it into Roku stock, sell your Roku stock into Netflix. This is getting exciting. Now, here's something even more exciting. The guys over there, I saw yesterday, the guys over there at Link2 have just made available what they call their SPVs, which is they're packaging shares of Uphold stock. This is pre-IPO shares of Uphold stock, and they call them SPVs. It's like buying units. My understanding is that it's like you're getting all of the same thing that you get with the ownership of the shares, except for the voting rights, because they're packaging them up. But what right now, and this is Link2, their website is linqto.com, but they also have an app that you can download at the App Store, and you can actually buy these Uphold. It's the equivalent of shares of stock without the voting rights. But you can go and download this from the Apple Store, Link2, linqto. You can download that, and then you can go in there and sign up and buy the shares on their platform. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button. Tell your friends and family. Link2 is now selling. They've got Uphold shares. I know they've got some Coinbase. They got Ripple. From time to time, they've got their own shares. I don't know what Cabbage is. I think they've got Robinhood on the platform as well. Pretty cool stuff. Thanks for listening.